Welcome to another parent-teacher video lesson from the earlygiftedmanual.com, a free website for homeschooled children 3 to 7 years old and their parents that promotes and develops giftedness at an early age. I am Gary Blank, the creator of that site, and your host and facilitator for this video and all of the videos in my educational program. As the video lessons are designed to work in conjunction with the program on my website, I ask you to, at some point, click on the URL link in the description box below, and this action will take you to the earlygiftedmanual.com. By doing that, you will be able to put this lesson and all of the video lessons here on my channel in the proper context of the total program that I am presenting to you and your child. And welcome to lesson 25, skip counting. Materials for this lesson: you will need a pencil and two printables from the Early Gifted Manual. This one is called the skip counting chart, and we'll get to that in a minute. This is the blank skip counting chart. And finally, we will be using just some blank paper, and I'll tell you about that when we get to that point. All right, so what is skip counting? Well, to put it quite simply, it's the fast way to count. And your child has already had a preview of this when she was counting by tens, when you were counting the craft sticks in bundles of 10 in the place value exercise. So you can remind him of that. Just tell him, well, it's the fast way to count because we skip a lot of numbers and we only say certain numbers, and we'll get into that in a minute. And you can tell him or her as a little teaser that this is a very valuable skill for when he starts to learn multiplication and division. If he can master this skip counting chart, he will fly through multiplication and division. So there's a little teaser. All right, here is the skip counting chart, and let me explain it to you a little bit. You could read it in two ways. You could read it down in columns, and as you can see, the first column you're counting by ones, second column you're counting by twos, 2, 4, 6, 8. Third column by threes, and on all the way to 10. Or you could also, it reads the same way by rows. There's the first row, you're counting by ones, counting by twos. Next row, you're counting by threes, and on down to 100. So either way you or your child wants to use it is just fine. So let's just get started with the lesson here. Let's say you want, let's just start out by saying counting by ones. And of course, your child can easily count by ones up to 10. And you can go down here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And at this point, he or she should probably be able to count by, I'm just going to put a little check there. Count by tens, so you can go over here and see if she can do that. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. And of course, as you can point out to your child, that he's only saying the numbers that are multiples of 10, and he may not really understand that right now, but you can go back to your example of counting the bundles of craft sticks, maybe as a way of explaining that to him. So you're skipping a lot of numbers in between. It's the fast way to count. All right, ones, tens, fives, and I like fives because they're, when I was a kid, I learned this little sing-song recitation of them that went 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. So that's counting by fives up to 50. And I mean, let's face it, for the most part, a lot of these, and I'll show you shortly, are just strictly a memorization task. It's just something your child has to practice a lot, and he will get that practice by reciting them and writing them, which I'll show you here in just a minute. So that's 5s. You can go to 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And you could tell him as a little side information here, we call these the even numbers. And the ones we're skipping, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, are odd numbers. And they go all the way up to infinity. But you could give him a little preview of odd and even numbers there. All right. And at some point, when your child has orally mastered a few of these, let's say these 4, you could go to the blank chart and ask her if she can write them. And you might want to just start it like this, fill it in like this. Let's assume she wants to write them in columns. So let's do it like this. And there you have it. And then she might want to start in the easiest place, which of course is 1s. So counting by 1s. I'm going kind of fast here. This is my best penmanship, obviously. And she might be very solid in 10s next, so, and on and on and on down there, and possibly 5s and 2s, but you get the idea. And by writing these, it will be a way for you to check to see if he or she knows them, and it will be a way for him to kind of get these in his whole body and in his head. And of course, reciting them over and over again will also help with that. Let's go back to the skip counting chart here. Now we get into the more, I guess I'm going to call it esoteric skip counting numbers, 3s, 3, 6, 9, and the way I teach this one is I tell them to just say the numbers in between, just under their breath. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's a good way to start. So 3s, you might teach 3s next. 9s, which have an interesting pattern, and you can see it here. As you go down the column here, the 10s digit goes up by 1, and the 1 digit goes down by 1. So that's an interesting pattern. And you just keep going like that. Perhaps you might want to try 4s next. And as you can see, the 1s digit has a pattern, 4, 8, 2, 6, 0, 4, 8, 2, 6, 0. Anything you can do to make it easier for your child. But once again, I will say that ultimately it's kind of a memorization task. And you could finish out the, as your child learns these and has them committed to memory, you could see how she does writing them. And of course, writing could be part of learning them too. So what else? You could just teach her orally 25s, counting by 25s to 100, because that's obviously a very handy skill when she starts working with money. So 25, 50, 75, 100. So that's basically how you work with the skip counting chart. And I reiterate that it's really a bit of pattern recognition, but mostly just a lot of memorization and just getting a feel for reciting those numbers quickly down the column or down the row, depending on what direction he wants to travel. Welcome to part 2 of lesson 25, our lesson on skip counting. And in this part of the lesson, we're going to talk about tally marks. And what exactly are tally marks? Well, it's a way of counting by 5s in a special kind of written notation. So you might want to review with your child counting by 5s and see if she can count by 5s all the way up to, let's say, 50, because that's a skill that he or she will need to have to do this part of the lesson: 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, and possibly even up to 100 if they can do it, but at least to 50. So what does this written notation look like? What exactly are tally marks? Well, it looks like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and you have this line going across. And that's a bundle of 5. And of course, your child is already familiar with bundles of 10. We'd work with those. But now tally marks are bundles of 5, and they're written just like this: 4 lines straight down and a line across. So at this point, you could run through a few examples. You could say, okay, I'm going to do some tally marks here, and you have to tell me how many tally marks I've written. So you might start out with something like that, and if he's staring at it and just doesn't get it, you can help him and model it and go, well, we're going to count by 5s, and then we're going to count on and add a couple more. So it works like this: 5, 10, 11, 12. And you might want to give her a few more of those to figure out. Or you might want to flip this around, write a number. Let's see. How about this one here? And say, can you write out that many tally marks for me? So that would be great, because then she will get the chance to do the writing. And of course, that looks like this. I'm going to do it super fast speed here. And then just to reinforce it, have her count out those tally marks. So it's 5, 10, 15, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. So those are tally marks, and probably a question he might be asking now is, well, why do we need these? Why are we using these tally marks? Well, let me just give you a couple examples that you can show him. We have something called a survey that you can do, and surveys are when you ask questions to people. And instead of trying to describe it, maybe I'll just make a chart here of what a survey is. You could ask a question to, let's say, the kids in your neighborhood, and you could go out with a clipboard and this sheet and do it. You could ask, which kind of ice cream do you prefer, to all these kids in your neighborhood, vanilla or chocolate? And then your child could start tallying up the answers. The first kid might say chocolate. The second kid might say chocolate. And then you might have one that comes in and says, no, I like vanilla. And then another one comes along and says chocolate. And another one comes along and says chocolate. And then perhaps another one says vanilla. And another one chocolate. So basically what you're doing is you're just tallying up responses. And of course the question is, which ice cream do you prefer, vanilla or chocolate? And tally marks come in very handy here, because let's say you're asking 50 kids, you could very quickly tally up your totals in each column and find out which was more popular, chocolate or vanilla ice cream. And I could keep on going with this, but you get the idea, so I'll make it very simple. Let's say you only asked 7 kids, so 5 preferred chocolate, 2 preferred vanilla. So we call that doing a survey, and I'm going to flip this sheet over and use this again. Another example of this is at a school where I worked, we had something called the fund run. So every kid had, I'm going to call it a bib on the front of their shirt. It looks something like this. And up here there was a number. Let's say a child was runner number 113. And the way it worked is as the kids ran laps, and every time they completed a lap, there was an adult there to make a tally mark in this box down here that let them know how many laps they had run. And of course that's 5. And with the older kids, of course, they could look down, and since they knew tally marks very well, they could very quickly add up how many laps they had run so far. For the little kids, I enjoyed helping them. They'd come by, and as I was marking the tally mark for the lap they just ran, they would ask, well, how many laps did I run? And I'd show them just how fast I could count up tally marks. Let's say there were, let's say they had run 33 laps. I'm not going to write it all out here for the sake of time, but I could just go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 31, 32. Did I say 33 laps? 33. So tally marks, just like any kind of skip counting, is a fast way to count. And really the young kids, like the kindergartners, were very impressed that I could count up all those tally marks so quickly. So those are tally marks, and like I said, it's counting by fives, and a very useful tool that your child can use for a variety of purposes. After reviewing this video, I wanted to add perhaps 2 more things. Learning all of this chart in its totality, learning to skip count by all of these numbers, really will take place over a long period of time. It just, it's a lot of information. As I said, it's mostly memorization, so you really can't expect for a child to master this perhaps over a week or something like that. It's just not going to happen. So what I would suggest is start with the tens, which is a very important skill to have, skip counting by tens. Then I would move to skip counting by fives, and then skip counting by twos. Those 3 in particular are important skills for your child to have. And then after that, as I laid out earlier in the video, you can go through the rest of the numbers sort of in the order that I did. So once again, don't feel that your child has to absorb all this in a short period of time. It will take place over a longer period. And this is a larger version of the skip counting page we've been using. I'll put my hand in here to give you an idea of the scale, and because of the reflectivity of the covering here, the lamination, it's rather hard to see, so I'll try to move it here a little bit for you. But as you can see, it looks just like the smaller printable we were using. Great idea to do this. I've talked about this before. Make it big, put it on the wall. That way your child always has access to it. They can go to it when they want and kind of work with it however they want to learn this concept of skip counting.